Coming up on DFE News, heartbreak after a shooting at a Minnesota church and school. You'll hear from someone nearby who heard the shots. Also, the left is once again calling for gun control. Laura Carno says she has a better idea. And possible jail time if you refuse to use your trans child's pronouns. We'll tell you where. We've got news for you, those stories and more right now on DFE News. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on DFE News. News done right. I'm Jeff Kirk. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment so everyone gets to see DFE News. So much is going on. Let's get right to it. The details about the tragic shooting at the Catholic school in Minneapolis are continuing to emerge. But one thing we can never know is how many shootings are prevented before they happen. One such event may have just taken place in D.C. A day after the shooting in Minneapolis, federal authorities arrested a juvenile in Washington, D.C., who had threatened violence against the school on social media, and the police seized several firearms and ammunition. During a press briefing Thursday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt provided more details.
I can share with all of you that last night in Washington, D.C., when arrests were being made, there was an arrest of a juvenile right here in D.C. in Ward 7 for threats to kidnap and injure, receiving stolen property, possession of a large capacity feeding device, unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. A search warrant was executed, 7 firearms were recovered, and the juvenile was arrested after an investigation was initiated based on social media posts allegedly threatening violence towards a school. So this was a juvenile who was a risk to not just himself, but the community here in Washington, and he was removed.
No further information about the juvenile or any possible target was available, and sadly, as we know, not all shootings are stopped before they occur. FBI officials say they're working with local law enforcement in Minnesota to fully investigate the Catholic school shooting that left 2 children dead and 18 others injured at the hands of a trans-identifying gunman. DFE's Kathryn Joyce talked with a witness who heard shots during the horrific event. She joins us now to tell us more. Hi, Kathryn.
Hi, Jeff. Minneapolis resident Tom Gladback said he heard gunshots on Wednesday as he was walking his dogs near his Minnehaha Creek neighborhood in Minneapolis. He didn't know it at the time, but authorities say Robin Westman, born Robert Westman, was in the process of shooting elementary school children and elderly churchgoers a short distance away.
My immediate thought was, oh no, something else is going on.
When nearby neighbor Tom Gladback heard the shots ring out at Annunciation Catholic Church Wednesday during his morning walk, he first thought it was more of the person-on-person violence that had been happening in the neighborhood over the past couple of days, but this sounded different.
The pace of the firing was not like hunters would, that normally would fire a shot, maybe 2 or 3, but these were pop, pop, pop. Pop, pop, pop.
This 23-year-old man, born Robert Westman, who identified as a woman named Robin Westman, fired several shots through the side windows of Annunciation Catholic Church during a school mass at the church Wednesday, killing 2 children and injuring 18 others. 15 of the people he injured were school children. The other 3 were parishioners in their 80s. The shooter died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
I got in the car and came home and immediately turned the news on and heard that it was Annunciation Church, and I was just kind of floored.
Annunciation was the first church Tom and his wife attended when they arrived in Minneapolis more than 20 years ago, and their son was baptized there. But even though Tom is no longer a member, he still feels the sense of shock in his community over the church shooting.
Personally, I feel kind of violated. It really bothered me when I heard our police chief talk about the manner in which this person just coldly shot through windows at innocent people. On a certain level, it's almost like a level of terrorism to some people, that where now they're going to be afraid to go to school or go to different public places because of the randomness of it.
FBI Director Kash Patel is also calling this domestic terrorism. That's because the shooter's manifesto, found on YouTube, was filled with hateful anti-Catholic and anti-Semitic remarks and explored a fascination with violence and mass shootings. The video has since been taken down. Tom says it's important for people to be aware of the effects of severe mental health issues before they turn deadly.
It's going to require people our society being more aware of mental health issues, and getting to people like this person before they start going down a path that they can't come out of.
Dealing with loss is never easy, as Tom knows from losing his wife to cancer. But he acknowledges that in this kind of situation, it's still difficult to know how to comfort the families of those who lost loved ones.
Grief is a tricky ride. Don't try to fight it. Try to find a way to jump on board and ride along with it.
There are numerous ways you can help support the families of Annunciation Parish, including GoFundMe, Facebook groups, and the Catholic Community Foundation of Minnesota. Certainly, our prayers are with the church and its community. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Kathryn, for that report. When asked about what he'd say to the shooter's family if given the opportunity, Tom also mentioned he'd rather not say anything at all because it wouldn't be nice, no doubt echoing the thoughts of many. Besides mocking the offering of prayers for the victims and their families, some prominent leftist lawmakers are once again calling for taking away America's guns in the wake of the shooting. But many on the right have another idea: arm the teachers. Laura Carno with FASTER Colorado joins us now to tell us why. Laura, what was your initial reaction when you first heard about the shooting, and then once you learned that it was yet again another trans shooter?
Yeah, so every time one of these shootings happens, I always look at what could have been done to prevent this, what could have been done to save lives. And there were interesting different parts of the shooting in Minneapolis, in that the shooter shot from outside, wasn't inside. And so that, just from a tactical standpoint and multiple layers of security, it's very different. But our initial take at FASTER Colorado, whenever this happens, it's just a heartbreaking thing, like it is for everyone. These are parents who've lost their children, and that's just it's indescribable for parents to lose their children, especially to something so violent.
Yeah, for sure. Some we've seen on the left are mocking President Trump and mocking Christians who say their thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Let's go ahead and take a look at some video we have.
And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
So Laura, is saying things like thoughts and prayers aren't enough, is that appropriate talk from lawmakers and elected officials when this type of tragic event happens?
Well, this can be all of the above. We can pray for people who have lost their loved ones. We can pray for people who have children in the hospital with gunshot wounds. We can do those things, and we can look for solutions, and we can look to see how to stop the next one. It's not as if people pray and then do nothing at all. Or what it really told me, Jeff, was that mayor needs to expand his social circle, because maybe he doesn't have friends of faith. Otherwise, he would understand that prayer is really an important thing for people on the praying end and on the receiving end, both.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that indicates almost a lack of understanding of what prayer really is and what it does. How do you respond to those who say that we are sacrificing our children for the sake of being able to have our guns?
Yeah, and we hear that a lot. I'd like to go back 100 years or 50 years to when firearms were as ubiquitous as they are today. Most families had firearms. Children were around firearms all the time, and none of this happened. This is not an issue with firearms. This is an issue with, we live in a broken world. You look at what just happened in Minneapolis. That killer, that shooter, was significantly troubled. There's new information out from the manifesto that he didn't want to be trans anymore. He wanted to cut his hair, and he was tired of being trans. Whatever happened in the mental health of this young person, um, we society did not do him a service by what happened with the transition and his desire to detransition. Those are the issues, and I'm not saying it's the trans issue every time, but there are mental health issues in all of these shooters, and people knew about them. I'm sure we'll find that people knew that this was a troubled young person.
Yeah, I saw something earlier that said that police had been to that residence where that individual lived prior to this event. It had been a while, but police had gone for mental health reasons regarding
Right.
this particular individual. So, in your opinion, is this an instance where it might be one of those cases where it is better to take guns away from an individual or prevent them from being able to purchase or possess a firearm?
Here's the way I look at red flag laws. If you have somebody that has murderous intent and you remove one of the tools that he could possibly use to kill people, but you don't deal with the person, they can run somebody down with a car. They can kill somebody with the knife from the kitchen. Um, I don't think that red flag laws solve problems. They can certainly be misused. We've seen that, and this is why I've got some issue with red flag laws, especially when there's no due process. But we have to take a look at the person. Are they mentally ill? Are they criminally insane? Are they in the midst of committing some sort of a crime? What can we do with the person, as opposed to only focusing on taking one of the tools away, assuming that that's going to solve the whole problem?
Right. Yeah. In many places where firearms are not allowed, in some other countries, we still see these types of events happening just through different means. Like you said, you can run
Right.
someone down with a car. You can stab individuals. You can do any number of things. Laura, can you tell us a little bit more about Faster Colorado and what your solution is in light of shootings like we saw this week?
Sure. So what we do at Faster Colorado, and lots of folks here in Colorado don't know that for the past 20 or so years, it has been legal here in Colorado for school boards to authorize armed staff programs at their school. And in the last 9 years that we've been training, we have so far worked with people from 42 school districts in Colorado, mostly rural school districts. But basically, the reason that school districts are doing this is because law enforcement is never going to be there in time, especially in these rural communities. And what we do at Faster is when schools do authorize armed staff, they have to commit to a very rigorous level of training. And that's the training that we provide at Faster Colorado. All of our instructors are active duty law enforcement instructors, they're SWAT instructors, absolute world-class instructors in Colorado. And that's what we provide to these school staffers. And they need to go through that training every year and get qualified just like law enforcement does.
Yeah, so that they're equipped and on site for if something does happen. Hence the
Right.
Faster Colorado in the name. It's
Yep.
the old adage, when seconds count, law enforcement is only minutes away. So following up on that, could having armed guards, whether open or in disguise, could that cause an air of fear in the students at the school, or a environment where everyone is nervous or walking on pins and needles all the time?
Yeah, it's really just the opposite, is that the kids, and these are public policies. The community knows that they're happening by and large. Um, and students are fine, parents are fine, because it's just like having law enforcement in your school. They just happen to be concealed carrying, and they are. It's a little bit of a misnomer to say armed teachers. Only about 40% of the folks we've seen are teachers. The other 60% are another position not tied to a classroom. But the students don't look at it as a scary thing. They see it as, I'm being protected here. And interestingly, Jeff, in that shooter's manifesto in Minnesota, he said that one of the things he said is, I'm choosing this church because they are less likely to have armed teachers because they are a liberal school. And I have always looked at this as a deterrent effect. If it is known that a school is armed, the bad guy isn't going to go there. He's going to go somewhere else. And we saw it in Coventry Christian shooting in Nashville, where the shooter's manifesto said it could be this school or this school. I'm not going to go to this one over here because there's too much security. So now this is the second time we've seen in shooters' manifestos that they are making a choice on where to go kill children based on who has the most lax security. And so I look at that and I say, we've always thought that this had a deterrent effect. We have two cases right here that children somewhere else didn't die because they had good security. And unfortunately, people died where those killers chose to commit their crimes.
Yeah, that's we learn in the military is that they will look for a soft target, the unprotected target. And so you want to make yourself or your environment as hard of a target as possible to hopefully deter an attack before it even starts. So
Yeah.
a lot of times on these schools or places of business, we see these signs that say gun-free zone, no guns allowed on the premises. Does that amount to essentially a welcome sign for shooters?
Yeah, it's a promise that you won't be met with gunfire coming back at you. And what we know about these school shooters, and sadly we know a lot about them, is that they want a big body count. And if they think that they're going to get stopped right as they get started or before they get started, they don't want to go there. Even if they have suicide intentionality going in, they still want to get that body count up. So they want to go, as you said, they want to go to a soft target. And what's amazing to me, Jeff, is that members of Congress are protected by armed guards. Banks, the money in the banks, protected by armed guards. The department stores are protected by armed guards. For goodness sakes, why are our children not more important than what's going on in any of those places? They are our most precious resources here, and we have to be protecting them as well as anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And according to some, the only way to do that is to take away the guns from everybody. Do you think that's likely to ever happen? Are we if to something like that happening?
Well, you mentioned in other countries that have significant gun control that deaths happen anyway. So if you were able to get every gun out of the hands of every American, I don't know that it stops killing people. Just figure out other things. But the number of guns that are in the hands of law-abiding Americans who own guns properly and safely, you're never going to get them. If there was all of a sudden a big national gun confiscation, which I don't think would happen here. But if somebody attempted that, you would never get them all. And so some people would still have them. And the bad guys, by the way, would never turn in their guns. So you would end up with law-abiding citizens obeying laws by and large, the bad guys not obeying laws. And crime would simply get worse. And that's just immoral. If we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, part of that right to life is our ability to protect our own lives and the lives of our families. It's really immoral for a government to say you don't have the right to protect your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Laura Carno of FASTER Colorado, we've had your contact information on the screen so people know how to get in touch with you if they have any questions or maybe they'd like to take your course. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
2 states are taking steps to make sure you can only have the approved opinion of trans rights. And if you don't agree, you might be in legal trouble. California is working on a new bill called the Family Preparedness Act of 2025. The bill would allow a non-family member of a child to sign an affidavit stating they are a guardian of that child, which then gives that guardian certain legal authorities over that child, even without the knowledge of the child's parents. Opponents say the law would enable situations such as teachers claiming guardianship over students, so to enable gender-affirming care in school against parents' wishes. Or in the case of an illegal immigrant student, a teacher could claim guardianship to prevent the child from being taken into ICE custody. The bill is still in committee in the California Senate. Not to be outdone, Colorado signed a law set to take effect next year that says if you use the wrong pronouns for someone, you could get 4 months in jail. Let's take a listen to legal analysis from the Heritage Foundation.
So what this amendment does is it actually requires any individual in a public accommodation space to use mandatory preferred pronouns and selected names of individuals based on gender identity, even if those individuals disagree with the communication of a message that is antithetical to what they believe. It's the first time I have seen a state enact a law that is so patently unconstitutional that tries to concretize into the state canon a requirement to violate the First Amendment, because not every Coloradan is going to agree with the use of preferred pronouns or gender identity related names.
There are already lawsuits pending against the Colorado amendment, claiming the new rule compels speech, which the Supreme Court has previously ruled is illegal. Well, for better or worse, baseball season is drawing to a close. Is your team still in it? One young fan at a Seattle Mariners game is definitely in it. In the popcorn, that is. Camera crews at T-Mobile Park in Seattle caught the young man in action, and he became an instant sensation. Totally unfazed by the size of the bag of popcorn, the young man dives in face first, and in true sports-like fashion, he fights hard to the very end. That's great. I eat popcorn the same way. Video spread fast on social media and serves as a reminder not to forget the simple joys of life. Well, that's it for now. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, and engage with us so that YouTube and all the socials push it out to more viewers. If you're interested in becoming a DFE News sponsor, you can click on the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. Thanks for watching DFE News. News done right. See you next time.